Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price, co-founder of BILLY Footwear, tuning in here from Seattle, Washington. And on screen today, we have a lovely guest. She's tuning in from Wisconsin. Let's start there. She's a loving wife, a mother of two. She works as a dental hygienist during the day. She's also a travel agent booker. I guess we can kind of talk about that a little bit, but she's also the vice president of Helping Hands for GAND. Welcome, Tammy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Tammy, it's my absolute pleasure. And I mean, we at BILLY Footwear have had such a privilege and honor collaborating with such amazing nonprofits, and your nonprofit is definitely one of them. So I was hoping that you could kind of start off and kind of explain what is Helping Hands for GAND and how you got involved.
Yeah. Helping Hands for GAND, it's a nonprofit. We exist just to support families and just individuals that have a GAD-D2B associated neurodevelopmental disorder. That's a rare disease. It's caused by a truncation or a deletion of the GAD-D2B gene. We all have this gene, just that our kids, something happened, that they don't have it all. There's currently about 200 cases known in the world. GAND affects your speech greatly. A lot of the kids, I think almost all the kids, are diagnosed with apraxia. So it's basically, they know they want to say something, but they just can't say it. They can't get it out. They also have some issues with like fine and gross motor skills, developmental delays, and that sort of thing. A lot of the kids have seizure disorders as well. And I guess as far as Helping Hands for GAND, we're generally the first point of contact after a person gets their diagnosis. They usually, go over to the Google, the computer, and we pop up. So they get in contact with us. We have an amazing Facebook community, a great group of people. It's really active. And just because this is such a rare disease, it's just great to have that network of people just to bounce ideas off of, ask questions. Just get to know other people.
Yeah. Well, let me jump in for just a second, because it's, one thing as you're describing that stuff, when it comes to like the chromosomes and all the different like DNA that makes up the human body, it never, ever ceases to amaze me how incredibly complicated the human body is. I mean, there's so much going on inside the body, but it also never ceases to amaze me how as complex as the human body is, when one thing is slightly not correct, how incredibly impactful it is.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just that one little thing. A lot of these mutations are just sporadic. There is some in some of the families that it's hereditary, but yeah, just a sporadic mutation can't be detected, before birth, unless there's like a heart defect or something like that. But yeah.
And that's kind of how you got involved, correct? One of your kids.
Yeah. So Hudson, I have a 7-year-old little boy. We got diagnosed when he was about 2. So we kind of noticed something was, a little off with him when he wasn't like meeting all the milestones, about 10 months old. So we put him in therapies, did all that kind of stuff. He started walking, I think it was like around 2, and started to do more, more things. We thought he was kind of catching up, but the doctors were still concerned that, he's still not, doing what the typical kids do. So they talked us into doing the West testing. So it's the whole exome sequencing. And it's a real expensive, I don't know, I think it's gone down in price, but it was really expensive. But we had just met our max for the year, because we were getting our blood drawn on New Year's Eve. They're like, you just have to get in before the end of the year for insurance to cover it. So we're like, oh, it's fine, we'll do it, but nothing's going to come back. So fast forward about 5 months, we went into the appointment. We both didn't think we were going to find anything. I just remember, sitting down, and they're like, oh, we found something. We don't know much about it. It's called, GAD-D2B. And then the next thing they said is it causes mental retardation. And then after that, I don't think I heard anything else that they said that whole meeting. I just remember like driving home, just bawling. That's the only, thing I could remember them saying. I had really thought in my head, Hudson's, gonna outgrow this. He'll be fine. He'll be just like, his typical sister. so it was really a tough time, definitely in our lives. My husband, I think, took it a little bit better than I did. I think I took it a little harder. I definitely went home and I, Googled GAD-DTB. There was, I think, one paper at the time about it, and it didn't say all that much, and it was not a very great article to read. So I found Jennifer in Helping Hands for GAND. Jennifer is our president, and reached out to her and chatted a little bit, joined the Facebook community. And it just so happened that they were having their first family gathering in a few weeks in Missouri, in St. Louis. So my husband said, yeah, let's just go. Let's just do it. We didn't know anything about it. So we went there, and I forgot how many families were there. There weren't that many families there at the time. I think Hudson was like the 40-something person in the world diagnosed with it at the time. So, yeah, so we went to it, not really knowing what to expect. It had really, the great things were just connecting to the different families. But it was really tough seeing like the older kids. I still think in the back of my mind, I had my kid's just going to outgrow this. He'll be fine. And seeing kind of the challenges that the older kids had. So I had, I love the conference, but it was hard doing that, just finding out the diagnosis. I think it was in a kind of a dark place, I would say, for a few months, just not really, believing it almost. But after I really did embrace it, and I started, wow, this is actually a really great community, and he's such a special guy. And, although he's not going to be, like his typical peers, he's going to be still a great person. He's like the most loving kid. And I'm like, you know what? He's always going to be staying home with mama and going to be loving mama. So I love it. But yeah, so, I mean, there's tough parts of GAND, but there's also incredibly good things as well.
Boy, my goodness. I mean, there's so many. I mean, first off, thank you so much for sharing that. There's so many things about your story there that really resonate with me. I mean, it's a different scenario for sure, but I can place myself in numerous spots of like the mental state and the trying to connect with people on my own timeline. I mean, I broke my neck when I was a teenager. I was in the hospital and they told me I broke my neck and I'd never walk again. And those words just were such a punch to the gut. One, didn't have the tools to process it, but two, didn't even want to believe it. Like anything beyond that, it's like, no, that's not true. That's not my life. That's not the plan that I had. So every time you learn more about spinal cord injury, in my case, it's like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm walking out of this hospital. Yeah. And, it just, unfortunately, it just didn't work that way for me. But through that whole struggle, you get connected to the right people and you start having these conversations, these hard conversations, and to be able to share that emotion. And I mean, like it or not, you're going to grow. And then you start realizing how special those communities really are. So the thing about your story that I really wish I would have been able to have was your ability to get connected with that support network so quickly. I mean, I think that's absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that, the community is so tight now. If there's ever a new case that pops up, I'm sure that the community's there immediately as fast as they can to be able to help support them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, we're like usually that first point of contact after finding out. And Jennifer is usually that first person, and she's just really great with all the families and all that.
That's so awesome. Now, so we've talked about the organization a little bit. So can you share how others can find you?
Yeah, you can find us at GAD-DTB.org. You can also find us, trying to think of all of our different things. On Facebook, we have a community, Helping Hands For GAND. You can look up. We also have a social at GAD-DTB on Twitter, I think. I don't go on Twitter. I don't know. Those are the ones I usually go on Facebook or the website.
Okay, perfect. Well, I know on the social side, you keep it really simple, just at the GAD-DTB, just the @ symbol. So that's great. But I've definitely been on your website. You have a very impressive website, and it's very easy to navigate. And the part that I actually have on my other screen right here, but just the smiling mug shots of all the people that are on the board. And they're just, you have this feeling of like invitation, one, to pull you in, but also just like, it just feels like there's just such a loving support mechanism there, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, definitely. We have a really good board for sure.
And it sounds like there's an event coming up too, right?
Yeah, so we're having our first virtual event that takes place on July 17th. You can register on I think on our Facebook is the only way you can register through a link. But it'll be a really neat opportunity to hear from, there's a researcher studying it in California. There's also someone doing mice models and things in Florida, the University of Miami. And then we're also going to have other little speakers here and there. So it'll be and we're also going to do like breakout rooms for everyone to connect on different topics and whatnot.
Wow,
and
awesome.
It doesn't even have to, you can be, grandma, grandpa, friends, anyone is welcome to come to it. Man,
awesome. Well, I would imagine like through that same network, it's one, sharing on the experiences that you've had thus far, and but also probably sharing maybe tricks to the trade. And I'm guessing, is that how our shoes landed on your radar?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So how we found your shoes. Well, Hudson used to wear Eskimos. He wore them for about 3 years. And after he got done wearing those, the doctor said, okay, he has really loose, still the muscles and tendons or whatnot are still loose. So he always has to have a high back shoe, something with good support. So we looked around, found some, but we just had trouble getting Hudson's feet in these shoes. Like it was just getting on and off, and he just can't really help us do it. So we were just struggling. So I found it was some special needs group. They had listed, a picture of it saying how wonderful they were. So on a whim, I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to order a pair, see if they're as great as they say. And they were as great as they say. We just fell in love with them. That's like the only shoe he really wears now. His teachers actually asked for him at school that he be put in them just because they can get them on and off so easily, especially in winter when they have to switch between boots and shoes. So they're just amazing. And we're looking forward to one day he'll be able to actually zip and unzip by himself and, have that independence to be able to put his shoes on and off. I think that's really
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Well, make sure to share with Hudson's teacher that we're coming out with both rain boots and winter boots later this year. So I'm sure they'll be pretty jazzed about that too. Oh,
they will be. They will be. We will too. For sure.
Well, Tammy, I'm so happy you reached out. I mean, for those listening in, so Tammy reached out to us and we started collaborating with Helping Hands for GAND. And it's a collaboration program we have with a number of nonprofits where we're able to offer their members and their association the footwear at a discount. And with each one of those conversions, it's able to send a donation back to the nonprofit itself. Because, Tammy, I know with any nonprofit, the lifeblood of that nonprofit is one in the community, but two, some sort of revenue stream. So it's such an honor for us to be able to help out in some way.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, it's totally our pleasure. So Tammy, I just really thank you for your time today. But, before we sign off, I just want to give you the mic one more time. You can share whatever's on your heart, something we already talked about or something new, but I just wanted to make sure to give you the mic one more time.
Oh, goodness. I wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, I guess I really appreciate this time just being able to share my story just for, families that were just diagnosed or, recently just trying to find their footing. Definitely get involved. It just makes such a difference just to be able to have a group of people to be able to say, hey, this happened. What would you do? What therapies are working? We've learned so much, even just different therapies to try with Hudson. Some worked, some didn't work, but it's great to be able to, just have people that have tried different things because it's such a unique disease. So I would say, yeah, just get involved, reach out. You can always email one of us, Facebook, friend us. Anyway, we'd love to connect.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It sounds like just the most beautiful and poetic mentorship system. And I know like a mentor that I had, one of the examples he would give is being a mentor, following the mentors or following somebody is kind of like going through a minefield. It's important to to step in the footprints of the person who's gone before you, because if you step out of those footprints, you're at risk of blowing yourself up. So what you were just talking about, how being able to share the successes and the failures to be able to help others out along the way. I mean, that is so vitally important, and it strengthens the community, which I think is just totally awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Tammy, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it. Everyone else that was listening in, this was another episode of Open Book. We'll have another one next week. So until then,